Currently right now in the Australian property market, right, we have, first home buyers in tents. For example, they're working full-time jobs, but they can't afford rent, so they're intense, okay? So let's forget about them. Well, not forget about it, but in terms of the context of them buying a property, they're out of the scope. Then you have first home buyers who struggle with a deposit. They only got like 5% deposit. They're applying for the first home guarantee scheme. They're scraping by just to get enough money to buy that $900 to $1.2 million, for example, in Sydney, a villa or a townhouse in Sydney. Then up a notch by 10 folds, we have these first home buyer ballers, first home buyer bloody ballers. Like this first home buyer over here. This article just came out like this week. First home buyer pays $2.6 million for a Marrickville house. Let's break it down. So the house is at 19 South Street, Marrickville, sold for $2.6 million. It's got 3 bedrooms, 1 bath and 2 car space and 474 square meters. It's a pretty okay house, but for $2.6 million, not worth it in my opinion. Yeah, it's okay, yeah, it's okay. And by the looks of the backyard, it looks like a terrace kind of house to me, very narrow. But this is what strikes me about the extremity of this first home buyer. Not only that he or she purchased this property, but this first home buyer actually used a buyer's agent to help them buy this first property. Let's look at the cost of buying this property for this person. $2.6 million. Stamp duties are around $104,000. They got to borrow 80%, which is about $2,080,000. I'm guessing, combined income of these guys is at least $250 to $300K to get this type of lending. The 20% plus stamp duty, they need $650,000. And on top of that, this baller first home buyer has a buyer's agent representing them. So let's add $15K onto this budget, which they need to spend for this person to represent them at auction. Not only that, old mate first home buyer went $400K over reserve. How come I don't meet these type of first home buyers on TikTok? All my first home buyers are scraping by to get that 5% deposit. Like seriously, this guy is like, yep, extra 400K, doesn't matter. And by the way, I don't want to be there. So buyer's agent, come, 15K, do the auction for me. Imagine being the mortgage broker for this first home buyer. He's like, hey, I actually don't charge you a fee because, it's commission based. Don't worry, bro, 10K, here you go, do my loan. You must be thinking, Q, you sound salty. Yes, I'm freaking salty. How do you come up with that much money in this environment when people are struggling, living in bloody tents? This guy not only is a first home buyer looking for their first home, buys a schmick property, which I don't really like, but then throws in a bloody buyer's agent, 15K, buy the property for me. While on the other side of the spectrum of Sydney, old mate here, which is another article by news.com, this guy is struggling to pay his mortgage. He says that he has to sell his Lexus and cancel regular date nights, to afford mortgage repayments. Because according to the article, this 44-year-old father of, I guess, 2 to 3 kids is drowning in debt. But then old mate did buy a property for $2 million in a plush suburb of Haberfield about a few years ago. Now, a working class old mate with his wife, who basically works at ING as a banker, I'm sure their combined income is around 220. You got a first home buyer baller that has a limited money, maybe from daddy, mummy's money. And then you have the other side of the spectrum, which is this guy over here, who has to sell his car just to make mortgage repayments. And then you go down a few notch, maybe under the sewage, or metaphorically, you have people who can't afford rent. And then they need to live in the bloody park. So the status quo in Sydney or Australia is crazy. You have people who are super rich ballers, first home buyers, and then you have people who are struggling, working class, but then over leverage in terms of buying a property. And then you have people who will be like, dude, I just want to buy a place to live in with a roof over my head. Nah, you can't afford it because of inflation, high cost of living. So, what do you think about this situation at the moment? With another 650,000 migrants coming. What do you guys feel? Jump in the comments, let me know what you think.